A rock died on screen, and a theater full of grown adults sat there sniffling over it. How the did we get here? And why is this the best character of the film? Well, all of it starts with the very first time we see him. Ryan Gosling plays a guy called Grace, who wakes up alone on a spaceship with his whole crew dead, on a one-way mission to save Earth. About as far from home and as alone as a person can get. And then, out by a distant star, he figures out he's not actually alone. There's another ship out there. His first reaction is straight fear. Something detaches from that ship and starts drifting toward him, and he has no clue if it's a gift or a bomb. He panics, yells for the shields, and finds out his ship doesn't even have any. So right off the bat, you're not going, "Aww," at this first contact. Turns out it's harmless. It's a probe with a little model of a star system tucked inside, sent over by whoever's on that other ship. And Grace, who's lost everything to get this far, looks at it and just notes how much they have in common. Both a long way from home, and he hasn't even met the thing yet. Then he does meet it. And let's be real, can we even call this thing cute? It's a 5-legged thing that looks like it's made of rock. No eyes, no face, moving around in a way that no other thing on Earth would move like. And Grace is terrified of it. Oh, and it can't even talk. So the first thing that passes between them is a knock. One of them taps on the wall, the other taps back. Then they start copying each other's movements, this kind of careful, awkward little mirror through the glass. Basically, both of them asking the same thing. Are you real? Are you friendly? And slowly, knock by knock, that fear turns into something else. This is the first choice that makes Rocky work. They could have handed you some warm, glowing, adorable plushie-like creature and told you to love him. Basically the Baby Yoda treatment. Instead, they made you meet him the exact same way Grace does. Scared, confused, one nervous tap at a time. So the fondness you end up feeling has been built by you naturally, right next to the last man alive. But still, that's just his introduction. The trouble with a rock is that a rock is, it's a rock. In any other film, this would be an inanimate object. So what way did the directors find around that? Well, it leads back to his anatomy. He comes from a planet where eyes are useless, thick, boiling air you couldn't see through even if you tried. So he evolved to see with sound instead. He pings the room like a bat and builds the whole picture in his head off the echoes. So what does he breathe? Well, his air is ammonia. Then look at how he's put together. Everything about him runs on the number 5. Well, at least I just took this look from Reddit, which was classified as fan art, so maybe it's not fully canon. According to this diagram, it has 5 legs, which I can confirm that at least, but then also 5 gas bladders, 5 hearts. The number just seems to come up multiple times. But the thing that really sells him as alive is that he never stops working. Drop a problem in front of him and he's instantly building, welding, or fixing, just rolling around in Grace's ship in a little ammonia ball he built for himself just so he can visit. He reads as smart the way a person reads as smart, by solving things right in front of them. By the time he's redecorating the ship, you've forgotten you're looking at a puppet made of stone. And speaking of which, Rocky was a real physical thing that actually sat on the set. They built him as a puppet. So onto some nerdy background production details. He's made by Neil Scanlon, the man behind a whole zoo of Star Wars creatures, worked by a team of puppeteers, all operating him at once. So why does that even matter? Well, when Gosling is in a scene talking to Rocky, there's a thing actually in front of him. He can look at, react to it, and flinch when it moves. So the back and forth plays like it's 2 actors in a room. Well, because half the time, it basically was. You've felt the other version of this 100 times before. That weightless CGI sidekick that never quite shares the light with the humans, and some part of your brain files it away as a cartoon and stops fully buying in it. Maybe it even falls into that uncanny valley, like the old Sonic design. Ugh, sorry I had to do that to you. Rocky doesn't go there. He's got weight, he casts a shadow, and he's physically there. So your gut trusts him just a little bit more because of that, which frees them up to solve the actual nightmare of this guy's design. How do you get a face out of something that doesn't really have one? Well, for that, you use his entire body, the way he plants his legs, whether he leans in or backs off, how fast or slow he moves, and all of it carries the mood that a face normally would. Oh, and also, here are some not-so-small details. They went through something like 300 versions of him across a full year hunting for the right shape to do this. Get it even a little wrong, and he's just an expensive rock sitting there. But get it right, and, well, you get Rocky. At some point, you just start reading him without even trying, the same way you always know how, say, a dog feels, even though it never says a single word. But that said, he still needs a voice. So what do they do for that? Well, just listen to this. I think I'm just gonna call it music. Rocky talks in actual notes, usually a few at a time, so every word out of him comes out as a little chord. The team sat in a room with real instruments and found his voice by hand. The winner was an ocarina, one of those little clay flutes, you know, the ones from Zelda, because the breath moving through it sounds weirdly alive. There's an earthenware jug in there too, filled to different water levels to shift the pitch, plus a didgeridoo and some real bird songs slowed down. Now, I didn't hear that myself when I was watching the whole movie, because, I don't have an ear for that, but reading some articles is what taught me it. My parents actually have a didgeridoo hanging back at home. My dad brought it back from Australia. Fun fact for you. Now, Rocky's notes are reflecting how he's actually feeling. Pitch goes high and jittery, he's rattled about something. Drops low and slow, then he's gone deadly serious. Then, Grace builds a little box that can turn the chords into English for us. Just give it a listen.
Rocky fix. Grace go home.
Oh, it somehow makes him even more lovable now that it's in broken English. It's such a good little system, and it's doing something to you that I'm gonna come back to. But first, let's go over his personality. Now, once they're friends, Rocky just lets himself into Grace's ship, rolling around in his little ammonia ball going, "Hi, Grace," nosing about, trying to work out where the bedrooms are like he's viewing an apartment.
Dirty.
Well, I wasn't expecting company, was I?
Grace tries to have the whole personal space conversation with him, but Rocky could not care less. He's decided that they live together now. When Grace builds him a sleeping pod, Rocky micromanages every second of it, barking exact instructions, out pointy, showing him how he wants it. Grace ends up venting to his mission camera like a man at the end of his rope. He tells me what to do, he tells me why to do it, he tells me how to do it, and he tells me when to do it. Some real-life parallel of, some college roommates sometimes. Is that right? It works because you completely believe these two would drive each other up the wall. To Rocky, our Grace is probably just some big dumb alien. Then he appoints himself co-star of Grace's video logs back to Earth. Just starts addressing the camera, dead proud of himself, explaining things and signing off with a,
What think, Earth?
Grace has to gently remind him nobody on Earth can actually hear him. Doesn't dent his confidence in the slightest, though. You spend your time watching the movie laughing with him instead of at him. And you can't really laugh with something for over an hour and not start loving them just a little bit. And I feel like it's that broken English part doing the work. I told you I'd come back to it. That part means you learn to read him. You get used to the clipped little sentences, you fill in the bits he drops, and you start catching what he means before the translation even lands. Maybe it just comes off like it's very innocent, kind of like a toddler, or like the Iron Giant as a small little rock. He trips the same wire a really good Pixar sidekick does. That instant and kind of helpless, "Aw, my little guy" sort of reflex. And once he's got you doing that, the simplest thing is gonna carry the most weight. 3 knocks on the wall. That's their entire, "You still there?" The film made you learn him, and you decoded your way into friendship. And something you had to work that hard to understand ends up mattering way more to you than if he just turned up speaking English. And to see how far they were willing to push it, just look at one wall the movie never lets them cross. They can never touch, not once, even ever, and the film is deadly strict about it. Put them in the same room, and one of them is gonna die on the spot. Grace's oxygen burns Rocky. Rocky's side is ammonia at 400 plus degrees and under crushing pressure. And Grace stepping into that would feel, in the words of the guy who wrote it, like standing inside a grenade. So everything between them, every last bit, is happening through a wall. A clear panel of this xenonite stuff, breathable air on one side and boiling poison on the other. It's kinda gut-wrenching. There's a moment where Rocky finds out Grace's mission was only ever one way, that Grace came out here to die. And Rocky, without a single thought, hands over his own spare fuel so that Grace can make it home instead. He puts it the way he puts everything.
Rocky fix. Grace go home.
He's giving up his own home so his friend gets one. And then the two of them go to hug, and they can't. All they can do is press up against their own sides of the glass, as close as their two bodies are ever allowed to get, with a wall between them that neither of them must ever cross. That's kind of the whole friendship right there. Everything they feel for each other, running straight into a barrier that's never gonna come down. It can't. It mustn't. It aches specifically because they can't just reach through it and hold on. And the film knew exactly what it was doing, having you sitting there, experiencing that. Which is what makes the one time somebody does cross that wall hit you like the hardest thing in the movie. They're out near a planet, collecting the samples that could save both their worlds. And a fuel line goes. The ship starts spinning hard. Grace gets thrown around in his chair and knocked out cold, struck on his side with no way to help himself. And Rocky does the thing he is never, ever supposed to do. He breaks straight through into Grace's air. It's killing him the whole time he does it. Oxygen hits him and starts burning him up from the inside, the mercury within him reacting to the air. And he knows that. But he does it anyway. He drags his unconscious friend all the way to the medbay, gets him to safety, and then Rocky gives out. Grace comes round, patched up, alive because of Rocky, and then he goes to the wall. 3 knocks. It's the whole, "You still there?" But this time he gets nothing. He knocks again and still gets nothing. You watch it land on him that the little guy might not be getting up again. All he can force through that glass is, "You've got to wake up." If you wanted proof the design worked, well, it's right there. A theater full of people absolutely wrecked over a rock, lying in a heap on the floor. I mean, hell, I'm losing it right now. They built enough of a soul into him that a pile of rock going quiet, well, it feels like watching someone, go. He does wake up, by the way. I gotta admit, I kind of misled you in that intro. Sorry. When he does, though, Grace just wraps himself around Rocky's little ball, crying. And this time, Rocky knows what a hug is and presses back into the barrier as hard as he physically can. The hug they couldn't finish earlier, finally finished, right here. Grace pays every bit of it back. On his way home at last, the thing he crossed a galaxy for, he works out that the stuff they're carrying will eat through Rocky's ship and leave him to die out there alone. So, Grace fires the samples off toward Earth and turns his own ship around, giving up on home for his little rock. So, where does Grace end up? On Arid, Rocky's world, living in a little dome the Iridians built him so he can breathe. Back to teaching, except now it's a room full of alien kids. Rocky drops by to see him, and when the offer to go home to Earth turns up, the two of them are just sat there together. And Rocky tells him to take a long time to think about it, like he's in no hurry at all for his friend to leave. So, back to where we opened. A rock, quote-unquote, died on screen, and grown adults cried for him. The reason that lands, after all of it, it's kind of a punch to the face to how we normally do this. For years, the move to make aliens relatable has been to sand them down towards us. Give it eyes we can read, a mouth that smiles, or a body that stands up more or less like ours, so we catch a bit of ourselves in them. Rocky's got none of that, and yet, he outdid all of it. Turns out, what makes you love something usually comes down to 2 plain things. Give it a way to reach you, and make you do a little bit of that reaching yourself. Every alien built to look a little bit more like us was answering the wrong question the whole time. And if you want to see how War of the Worlds did the complete opposite, by making the design terrifying instead of relatable, well, how about you click over here to find out.